always on TMZ, and it to me, it goes back to the age difference. My mom would call me like, call your brother. I'm like, why?
People feel that I'm accessible to them, so I come in contact with all kinds of people. You have to learn that as you walk on this path, you must stay neutral.
Oh gosh, let me spill some serious tea about Hollywood that will absolutely shock you. We've all been dazzled by the glitz and glamour, right? Those fancy red carpets, those star-studded premieres. But honey, what if I told you there's something much darker lurking beneath all that sparkle? And who better to blow the lid off this whole thing than Omar and Cuba Gooding? These brothers are finally, and I mean finally, ready to expose Hollywood's dirtiest secrets. Omar and Cuba Gooding are finally breaking the silence and pulling back the curtain on Hollywood's most sinister side.
I'm the type of heterosexual man that will not compromise.
You won't believe this, but these poor brothers have been caught up in Hollywood's twisted little games for years. But now they're ready to spill everything, and trust me, what they're about to reveal might explain why some of our biggest stars seem to crash and burn in this brutal industry.
People feel that I'm accessible to them, so I come in contact with all kinds of people.
Can you imagine the courage it takes? I mean, Omar and Cuba are literally risking everything to expose these powerful Hollywood players, and let me tell you, this rabbit hole goes deep, like really deep. Have to be accountable for your own actions, and I have been. Now let's dish about these brothers for a minute, because their story is absolutely fascinating. Growing up in the spotlight together, Omar and Cuba couldn't have turned out more differently if they tried. It's like they're two sides of the same coin. Omar's been playing it safe, staying away from drama, while Cuba, oh honey, Cuba's been making headlines for all the wrong reasons.
Always on TMZ, and it to me, it goes back to the age difference. My mom would call me like, call your brother. I'm like, what?
Let me tell you something about family dynamics, especially when you're living under Hollywood's microscope. Poor Omar has been carrying this burden, watching his older brother's struggles and feeling completely helpless. Can you imagine? It's like watching a car crash in slow motion, but you can't do anything to stop it. Omar's basically become the family peacekeeper, while Cuba, well, Cuba's been the wild child.
Listen to what I say, I'm the little baby brother in his eyes. I could be 37, 47, or 57. I'm still the baby brother. That's just kind of how my family is.
Now, here's where things get really juicy. Omar's been in this industry forever, darling, and what he's seen would make your jaw drop. He's watched how Hollywood picks and chooses who they want to push forward and who they want to silence. But wait, it gets worse. They're actually grooming these stars for scandal. And guess who fell right into that trap? You guessed it, Cuba. Let me spill this piping hot tea. Apparently, there's this whole twisted system targeting black actors specifically. They're being pushed into certain, let's say, lifestyles that seem self-destructive on the surface. But honey, that's exactly what Hollywood wants. And Omar, well, he claims he was offered some pretty questionable opportunities when his career was peaking. But unlike some others, he said no. And wouldn't you know it? That's when his career started taking hits. Poor Omar nearly went broke during what should have been his prime. But here's the real scandal. He's exposing how Hollywood has this disturbing obsession with feminizing black male actors. And Omar, he wasn't having any of it.
Because I'm the type of heterosexual man that will not compromise for two reasons.
Get this, Omar's explanation is actually pretty fascinating. He loves to travel, right? And he absolutely refused to take roles that would paint him in a way that didn't align with how he wanted to be seen. Smart man.
One, I'm the type of person that moves around in the world. So I know how, I couldn't do something even, I'm like, all right, fine, it's just acting. And then you meet somebody like, damn, I saw you with that. I say, oh, hell no, listen, man, that's acting.
And honestly, it makes total sense. Think about it. When fans see actors in public, they immediately associate them with their most famous roles. Omar wasn't about to spend his life explaining why he once wore a dress in a movie. He wanted no part of that drama, thank you very much. But wait, there's more. Omar's being brutally honest about his capabilities too.
Roles I just wouldn't even consider because I'm not gonna be able to pull it off, man. I'm offend them more than they gonna be offended by me saying something slanderous. They gonna be just like, oh.
Can we talk about how refreshingly honest this is? Omar straight up admitted that if he ever had to play certain roles, he'd probably end up offending people. Not because he'd want to, but because it just isn't who he is. And his advice to upcoming actors? Don't sell yourself short just because you're desperate for a break. Better to wait for the right role than compromise who you are. Now hold on to your seats because this is where things get really dark. According to Omar, these Hollywood elites, they're not just producers, they're puppet masters. And the names he's dropping, Tyler Perry, Diddy, Clive Davis, even Jay-Z, these aren't just random accusations, folks. Speaking of speaking out, let me tell you about Christian Keys. Last December, he absolutely shocked everyone when he went live on Instagram with his own horror story. This star from All the Queen's Men revealed how a powerful billionaire allegedly tried to get into bed with him and offered him $100,000 just to strip. If you thought Diddy's scandals were shocking, honey, you haven't heard anything yet. During his hour-long Instagram live, Keys got real about choosing the harder path in his career after turning down some pretty sketchy offers. Can you believe someone actually tried to lure him back to a private residence after an audition? But here's what he said, and I quote, "I didn't sell my soul or my A for success. Period. And oh my God, the tea is about to be scalding hot because Keys claims he has receipts. We're talking actual recordings dating back to 2005. This smart cookie knew exactly what he was doing. He carried recording devices everywhere because these predators would usually check phones. We're talking keychain recorders, pens, everything. Keys hasn't named names yet, but he's promising to expose everything soon. And get this, he says this person was so brazen because they allegedly had multiple young black men on their payroll who would show up whenever requested. I mean, can you even? Now, social media detectives immediately pointed fingers at Tyler Perry, and honestly, it's not completely out of left field. Keys got his big break in Perry's stage plays, which basically built Perry's billion-dollar empire. They've worked together since 2005. Right when Keys says the harassment started. And Perry's an executive producer on All the Queen's Men. The plot thickens. But here's where it gets even messier. Cuba Gooding Jr. might be caught up in some of Hollywood's darkest circles. Word on the street is that Diddy's getting ready to take everyone down with him, and Cuba's name is definitely on that list, along with Jay-Z and others. Speaking of Diddy's drama, have you heard about Rodney Jones Jr.'s lawsuit? Child, grab your popcorn because this is wild. Jones, aka Lil Rod, worked as Diddy's producer, and the stories he's telling, they'll keep you up at night. We're talking about a 70-page lawsuit filed in February that's spilling all the tea. According to Jones, working for Diddy wasn't just about making music, it was about surviving. He claims he was forced into intimate activities, faced unwanted advances, inappropriate touching, and that's just the beginning. The really scary part? Jones thinks he was drugged and forced into humiliation rituals. Oh, and apparently, Diddy cheated him out of over $50,000 for his work on the Love album. But wait, it gets worse. Jones is painting a picture of an industry controlled by money, power, and dark rituals. Apparently, Diddy tried to pressure him into a relationship which, and this is shocking, Jones says is totally normal in certain industry circles. And here's where Cuba Gooding Jr. comes back into the picture. According to Jones's lawsuit, during his time with Diddy, he met Cuba, who allegedly couldn't keep his hands to himself. The lawsuit claims Cuba was touching Jones's legs, inner thighs, back, and shoulders without consent. And given Cuba's history with misconduct accusations, this tea is piping hot.
2, he pled guilty to forcibly touching a waitress in a...
The whole thing exposes how these powerful figures just normalized crossing boundaries. And it wasn't just Diddy and his friends, this goes all the way to the top. We're talking about a full-blown RICO enterprise. Even Universal Music Group's CEO, Sir Lucian Grange, and former Motown CEO Ethiopia Habtemariam are named in the lawsuit. Jones claims he was forced to record hundreds of hours of footage showing all kinds of illegal activities. From these wild parties to how they manipulate young artists, he's got it all on tape. And Cuba Gooding Jr., he's just one piece of this twisted puzzle. But hold on to your wigs because Jay-Z might be about to face his own music. Apparently, Diddy knows things that could absolutely destroy Jay-Z's career if they come out. But plot twist, Jay-Z might be playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Recently, Jaguar Wright dropped some bombshells about Jay-Z possibly being behind Diddy's downfall. The tea is scorching.
So why does it all come to a head now? Why now? Why?
Because he's the acceptable monster at this time.
During her interview, Wright drew these wild connections between R. Kelly's downfall and what's happening to Diddy now, suggesting Jay-Z orchestrated the whole thing. And when asked who might be next, she pointed straight at Diddy.
See the lineup?
Yeah, we see the lineup. I'm just waiting to see who's next.
Jay-Z is setting Diddy up.
Wright claims Jay-Z lined up to Haven, stole his life and identity, did the same to Biggie, then moved on to Dame Dash, even taking his love. The audacity. And apparently, she thinks Jay-Z had something to do with R. Kelly's situation too. He wants to be the one, she said, suggesting Jay-Z's trying to control the whole narrative. So here's the thing about these accusations against Jay-Z. At first glance, you might think, no way, there's nothing to see here. But honey, let me tell you about Jay-Z's own checkered past, because this tea is piping hot. Remember 1999? That was a wild year for Jay-Z. Picture this. He's at this fancy New York nightclub, and next thing you know, he's getting arrested for stabbing Lance Rivera. And why? All because of some bootlegged albums. Can you believe? The tea is that Jay-Z was so pressed about someone stealing his music that he literally took matters into his own hands. Of course, being who he is, he managed to plead down to a misdemeanor assault and walked away with just 3 years probation. Must be nice. But wait, because 1999 wasn't done with Jay-Z yet. In the same year, I kid you not, he gets caught up in this nightclub shooting situation. Now, before you gasp too hard, he wasn't the one doing the shooting, but here's the gag. They found a gun in his car. I mean, hello? Another guilty plea, another 3 years probation? It's giving patterns and not the fashion kind. But here's where things get really juicy. With all this drama surrounding Diddy right now, people are starting to whisper about a potential domino effect. Can you imagine? We're talking about the possibility of both Hollywood and the music industry getting exposed. The streets are talking, and they're saying Diddy's got enough dirt to bury careers 6 feet under. Think about it. These celebs have been in each other's pockets for years. They've been at the same parties, behind the same closed doors, privy to each other's darkest secrets. And now that Diddy's back is against the wall, child, he might just decide to take everyone down with him. And let's circle back to Omar Gooding for a minute, because what he's doing, it's brave. He's literally pulling back the curtain on an industry that's built on smoke and mirrors. This isn't just about exposing scandals. It's about showing how fame can absolutely destroy people. Look at what it did to his own brother, Cuba. It's like watching a Greek tragedy play out in real time. Cuba's story? It's basically a cautionary tale about what happens when you get too close to these powerful figures in Hollywood. It's like playing with fire. Eventually, you're going to get burned. And honey, Cuba got scorched. But the most terrifying part of Omar's revelations, and I mean truly chilling, is how he's exposing these so-called mentors in Hollywood. You know the ones, those powerful figures who present themselves as these guardian angels, these career makers, these father figures to young talent. According to Omar, some of them are actually the most dangerous predators in the industry. They're not mentoring, they're manipulating. It's like that old saying, not all that glitters is gold. And in Hollywood, sometimes the brightest stars cast the darkest shadows. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks, but something tells me this won't be the last we hear about this scandal. When it comes to Hollywood secrets, there's always another shoe waiting to drop. Bye. And just like that, we've come to the end of today's explosive expose. But trust and believe, this story is far from over. The dominoes are just starting to fall. And honey, when they do, the whole house of cards that is Hollywood might just come tumbling down. Come tumbling down.